Imagine you and your friends are out walking, hunting, fishing, camping, someplace away from civilization, and you hear a snap, your friend breaks his leg, arm, or another body part. After serving almost 13 years in the military, I've done a lot of courses on first aid. I've given courses on first aid. I've been through the Army Combat Lifesaver course, which is a step above a regular soldier, a step below a regular medic. One of the things we covered was how to treat a fracture. A fracture is nothing more than a crack or a complete break in the bone. As you can see here, you have a little crack here, or it completely breaks. This is like a hairline fracture or a stress fracture. If not treated, it'll end up in a complete fracture. There are three types of fractures. You have a closed fracture, your open fracture, and an open fracture by missile. As you can see, your closed fracture does not break the skin, but yet the bone is still broken. Your open fracture punctures the skin, and an open fracture by missile can be created by a bullet wound. You can fall into a stick. Someone can drive something into your leg. Anything, it just punctures your skin and it breaks your bone. The symptoms of a fracture: deformity, tenderness, swelling, pain, inability to move the body part. That's a common one when somebody hurts their finger. Can you move it? Your bone is protruding or bleeding or discolored skin. You can have some bruising. Some things you want to keep in mind when you are treating someone with a fracture: you want to make sure that you splint the fracture as it lies. Sometimes you'll have somebody that has their arm back like this. Don't attempt to straighten it, leave it alone. You want to bandage the areas that are bleeding in the event of an open fracture. And under no circumstances do you want to try to put the bone back in if it breaks through the skin. You'll just cause more damage. Some examples of splinting materials: you have a SAM splint here, which you can buy at a surplus store. Walmart carries them, any kind of outdoor store. They're flexible. They'll slide up over your whatever's broken, be it your leg, your arm, and they can be molded. These are cravats. They also come in first aid kits. You get them through military first aid kit. Is probably one of the best you can buy at an Army surplus store. It'll contain all these materials. Some improvised splinting materials. These are tent poles, towels for padding. This is a rifle sling. You got rope, you got a t-shirt, or you can roll up newspaper and use it as a splint itself. To apply the splint, you're going to identify the fracture site. Again, you're going to use the symptoms of that: pain, swelling, discoloration. You're going to loosen any restrictive clothing. You're going to remove the jewelry. If my arm were broke and I didn't take my watch off, when it swells, it'll cause more problem. It'll give it a tourniquet-like effect and cut off circulation. You want to gather your splinting materials, which we just went over. You can either have it out of a true first aid kit, or you can use improvised items. And you want to pad your splints. The reason you want to pad your splints: if you're trying to splint somebody's leg, you do not want a hard board or tent pole against their knee, against their ankle, or up in their groin area. That will cause rubbing and it'll hurt. You want to check for circulation below the injury. Sometimes when you have a fracture, it'll cut off circulation and you have a whole other set of problems. And to do that in your foot, one of the things we discussed last week was pressure points. And in your foot you can take your pulse. You can take your pulse here in your arm if you have a fracture in your arm. Again, you want to splint it in place. If you move it, you take a chance of damaging it and taking a closed fracture and making it an open fracture. You want to take and place one splint on each side of the injured arm or leg, and at the end there's a slide that shows a splinted arm and a splinted leg. You want to tie your splints in place, and you do that away from the body. So if your leg is broken, you want to tie your splints outside with cravats or your improvised material to hold it in place. And then you're going to check circulation again, because when you tie your splint in place, you want to make sure that you're not cutting off their circulation. You check it before you splint, you check it after to make sure they have good circulation in their leg. Again, they tie off here. This individual has a break or a fracture right here. You just tied off 2 above and 2 below, and it's your splinting material, your splint itself, your cravats, and then tied off to the outside. And to check his pulse or circulation, you would check it here in his foot. The next slide is an example of splitting someone's arm. Once the arm has a splint, it's adhered to the body, so you're not moving it around. With your arm, you can also, if you don't have splinting material, you can splint your arm to your body. However, it's laying there. You can do the same thing with your leg. You can split one leg to the other leg. Hopefully, you'll never have a need to splint a fracture. Those of us that hunt, all of us go fishing, camping, and when you're away from civilization, you want to be able to take care of an individual that has been hurt. If you ever hear that dreaded snap and you see your friend go down, you want to be able to take care of them. Hopefully after today, and what you learned here today, you'll be able to do that.